no consensus. The proposal needs additional discussion, therefore returns to the discussion stage on the mailing list. Yeah, so on that, let me invite the next presenter for the proposal by the name Policy Compliance Dashboard. This is by the following authors: Jody Palais, Frank Habichi, Atkins, and Hayton. Please take on the mic and give us a brief of your proposal. And in the meantime, of course, this proposal seeks to provide a framework of a policy compliance dashboard to be developed by AFPUB and incorporated in my AFPUB and future members' communication platforms, also allowing periodic reviews on policy compliance status of each member. Automation to enable members receive notification and everything like that. So let me not waste much time and invite the authors to take us through their proposal. You're welcome.
Can you confirm you see the slides already?
Yes, your slides are visible.
Okay, let me try to, again, for the sake of time, rushing a little bit. I hope the people can read or has read already the proposal in the website. The idea here is that the AFPUB RSA already mandates members to comply with the AFPUB policies, which are developed via the PDP. There are different situations where all this is very well defined, but in other points it's not really that well defined, and we are ignoring the problem that in many situations there are changes to existing policies that not all the members are following in the mailing list, and yes, they can be alerted by the staff, etc., but that means manually making all this process. So what we are suggesting is, in order to save money and facilitate the work of the staff, that as much as possible, every policy that need to be complied by members is automatically verified periodically by this dashboard, and then the dashboard, when detects something that it doesn't match the policies, will notify the members. The members will not need to be checking the dashboard. The dashboard is just a help for them, but the members will receive notifications automatically. The idea is that today, when this verification is done by the staff, some of them are automated and they will become part of the dashboard, but only a few of them are automated, and many others and many other steps on this process require the staff to actually do it manually. Okay, so it costs a lot of money. The implementation of this will take some time, will cost some money, but in the long term, actually I will say in the middle term, is saving a lot of money in terms of resources. Automation is always good. We are in an era where everybody is trying to automate as much as possible everything, and that's what we are trying to do with this proposal. Okay, this is the text. Again, for the sake of time, I am not going to read it, so everybody can look into the details. The idea is also to take the opportunity to define what happens with returned resources, which it's not actually defined in the PDP. So there are other aspects that we are taking the opportunity with this proposal to take advantage of that. There is also a provision specific to RFC 7020. So in specific cases, the staff can take exceptional measures for the resources returned or recovered. Okay, that's normal. We don't want to take that power from the staff. We believe that should be done that way. There are similar policies or procedures in other regions. In fact, in LACNIC, an equivalent policy proposal reached consensus and is being implemented. Okay, it reached consensus, I think it was about 6 months ago only. So it will take probably additional 6 months to start the implementation. And with that, very quickly, I will handle to Matt B again. I guess you can see already the slides.
Thank you, Jody. Next slide, please. So this is a policy proposal that has an impact on the AFRINEC members. And going to the clarification request, so the authors to clarify if in section 5, they mean that 2 months after the resources are published, AFRINEC will back up and then remove the domain objects linked to the resources from its WHOIS database. And once the member reestablished contact and resolves its non-compliance issues, the domain objects will be registered in the AFRINEC WHOIS. Okay. Another one, clarification regarding tracking of repeated and or continued policy violations. So for consistency, policy authors may propose a threshold that mandates action and also clarify when and how the counters get reset. Next slide, please, Jody.
Yep.
Yeah. So AFRINEC shall publish resources under brief for a maximum of 3 months. Where would the authors prefer that that publication ideally happen? As a WHOIS remark or comment in the INET num or INET 6 num objects on the WHOIS, or on a publicly accessible web page, but we have some concerns over static information on websites. And the quarantine period, staff feel that the quarantine period would best be left as an operational decision at the moment, rather than have it specifically stated in the policy. And when some factors arise, if and when factors arise in the future that require an urgent review of the quarantine period, staff can take same actions. Next one, Jody. I think it's going to be the impact on the systems. Yes. So this policy proposal, if it reaches consensus, would have an impact on members. That's clear. And the procedures, so some of the procedures internally being used to help the members, to provide support to the members, will have to be reviewed. And the resource members will have to be, staff will have to follow up with the resource members in regard to persistent non-compliance. WHOIS, there is no perceived impact on the WHOIS unless the author clarifies that that we shall update the objects with remarks for the publication of non-compliance. And on AFRINEC, significant software development is required for the dashboard. Next one, next slide.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yes, we do take note of the notifications in the case of compliance, and that will be automated with periodical reminders to members, and also the warnings to be sent to the ticket queues so that staff may follow up. And the teams, internal teams, have really worked on how this policy could be implemented, and we've come up with that additional resources will be required in member services as well as the applications unit team to fully implement this policy. Next slide. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, in regard to the timeline of implementation of this policy, we discussed it internally. AFRINEC version 2 is currently being worked on internally by our team, and if this proposal reaches consensus, then it will be implemented on Myafronic version 2. And we told that the 6 months after the deployment of Myafronic version 2 is the most likely timeline. Reason being, the specs for Myafronic version 2 have already, for the first deployment of Myafronic version 2, have already, the scope has been finalized and it's currently under implementation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any new policy proposal that will be proposed shall also indicate clearly any elements of non-compliance. Well, the idea is not like that. Every CPM section already identifies what is correct and what not. So it is obvious what is compliance or not compliance. So I don't think we need to do that at all. The scope of the proposal includes both the CPM and RSA violations. We believe that it's not necessary to classify that in two categories because, in fact, some of the things can change with the time, and we don't want to need to modify the policy if that changes. Okay, so the policy should be agnostic on that, and the list is just a list of examples of possible violations. That's why we have the such as text as informative section in the policy. In the proposal. Tracking of repeated and continued violations for consistency. We don't think that should be consistent because we don't think it's the same to violate something like doing a transfer which is clearly prohibited, and that is just once you do it, you are really doing something really bad, versus a minor mistake. So we believe that it should be the staff decision to make a categorization of how many times you can repeat a mistake and provide that input to the community. Okay. Now, regarding the publication of resources for a maximum of 3 months, well, we believe that should be also decision of the operational decisions of the staff. So if you prefer a website, or you prefer WHOIS, or both of them, we don't think that's really relevant for the results of the proposal. The policy proposal mentions a quarantine of 2 years for ASN IPv6, and the current period is 12 months for from an internal procedure, right? This is not stated in the CPM today. So we believe that for resources which are not scarce, like the case of IPv6 and ASN, it's good to have 2 years. This gives sufficient time to make sure that they are, let's say, clean. Okay, so it's a kind of security mechanism. And at the same time, IPv4 resources, which are no longer available, why we should quarantine for 1 year? If we really empty the pool in Afrinic, maybe quarantining for just having them until the actual queue is empty is enough, because it will be more important to get some resources than actually being able to clean them in some situations, right? Also, we have the mention of the RFC 7020. So we also give some freedom to the staff to adapt in case of exceptional situations. And one of the examples that we have in the proposal is ASN of 16 bits, right? There may be a need for a 16 bits ASN, and maybe the person that need, or the member that need that resource cannot wait for 2 years. In that case, the staff can take a decision. Finally, we don't think that this requires so much increase on staffing or human resources. Why? Because the idea is that if this proposal reaches consensus, you don't really need to implement it in one shot. You can implement today this part of the manual, tomorrow the other part, next month another part, because we are trying to automate every policy compliance. Okay, so you can spread the implementation across the time. If you can do it in 1 year, it's fine. If it takes 1.5 years to make it perfect, it's fine as well. We are not asking in the policy proposal, make sure that this is working in just 1 year. No need for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jody. Thank you, Madvi. At this point in time, we need to open up the queue and hear from the audience. Unless if there's something, at this point in time, I don't see anybody in the queue, but I will wait. But as we wait, can we please, Abdul, AK, I am not seeing the queue, but if there's anything from the chat.
The queue is actually quite full. If you look
full.
there.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yes.
sorry.
Can we go for Marius?
I had moved down, sorry. Marius and Yok. This is the new normal. Marius and Yok, please go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your presentation and all the points you raised. I wanted to raise something around about this proposal. This proposal is actually more of an operational matter. It's more about what services Afrinic would give to its customers more than an actual policy for the community. So I therefore don't think that this should be, I mean, of course discussed, but I don't think this should be implemented. And on top of that, I think, I raised it in the chat, but this is going to be a lot of resource to put into develop the platform and then to maintain it because of all the, I won't go into details, but it will be a lot of resources for a job that is already at least partly done by Afrinic and that seems to be working pretty well. In the impact analysis, they also precise that there was no clear, let's say, like very big sanction out of thin air without getting in contact with the policy violators. And so, yes, so that's why I oppose this policy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Grigor. Can we get the next one on the queue, please?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Gregoire Elvin. So I support this policy because, like Jody said, in the problem statement, it's clearly mentioned it. Some members do not follow the PDP. But yeah, I did raise some few clarification about the prescription, the mailing list, and I got the response from Jody. I just want to highlight the fact that the non-compliance shall follow application policy in the RSA. So I can live with the policy as is right now. Thank you.
Okay. Next on queue. Thank you. Next on queue, please.
Hi. So I would like to say that I oppose this policy for a number of reasons. Well, first of all, I think it's redundant because as far as I know, it is the duty of Afrinic staff to notify the members of their violations. Second of all, I actually have a question to Jody. You mentioned that it would cost a lot of money and resources to implement this policy, but it would save a lot of resources in the long run. Do we actually have enough empirical data to support this statement? Because in a certain time like this, we should be very careful not to overwhelm Afrinic's budget with spending that is not 100% necessary. Then I see also another danger in regards to automatic notifications. I think that it would be much easier for members to dismiss automatic notifications and just carry on. Instead, when Afrinic member notifies the violator, then there is actually a feeling of accountability involved that cannot be as easily dismissed. So overall, I do not actually see this point in this policy, except for making the PDP more confusing and unnecessarily complicating the work of the Afrinic staff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next. Next, please.
This is Noah. Moses, I think
Yes,
it would
Noah.
be good if you ask. Okay, all right. So
No
personally, okay. So basically, in a nutshell, just like Gregory said, it's important that we acknowledge that compliance is really important, and obviously this tool, or rather the dashboard, as the policy has indicated, would actually add support
I think. Okay.
So in a nutshell, I think this policy is actually live with this. In a nutshell, I can live with this policy, and
we lost you, Noah. Our time is really running, and we need to close.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay.
They are saying that the staff will have too much work to do when it's not something related to the staff. So I would say to dismiss those comments, because only the staff can say if yes or no they can implement this policy. If the staff doesn't complain, I would urge the community not to complain on behalf of the staff, because I believe this policy is definitely necessary and useful to the well-being of our community, so that Afrinic can preserve the resources which are made available to the users based on their needs. Afrinic is not a tradesman. We have a need to promote the internet, and the resources which are made available to the users, it has to be done through a process. RSA is here to define those rules, and we have to comply with them, and anybody who benefits from resources have to comply with RSA, and if they don't do so, they need to be subjected to sanctions, and that's the way it should be. And I do support clearly this policy in full. This is something we discussed a few years ago already, and it is important to enable Afrinic to preserve the common resources that Afrinic has and that we have in Africa, and we won't allow multinationals to use and abuse our resources to put them available to other actors. And on top of that, it is not equitable or fair for us for anybody to take resources without complying to the rules and regulations which are defined. If somebody is willing to do that, they have to be punished and sanctioned. Claudie, I give you my full support. You might suffer with the people complaining and who are waiting to take the floor and so on and so on, but please do not consider that, and I would urge the chairs to focus on what benefits this policy generate and bring for something which is necessary and essential in the daily management of the resources that Afrinic has been tasked to manage. So I'm very grateful.
Thank you. Thank you. Your point is clearly, I think, taken. We have run out of time, and I'm just going to give one.
Please let me go. Please. Just very quick. Yeah, this is one that I think we can live with.
5 seconds.
Yeah, and we'll be acting responsibly by doing so. We'll be acting responsibly by doing so. Compliance is needed, and I think it is an effort in the right direction to have some better internet for Africa. Of course, we can continue discussing what criteria, how the criteria are evolved, but those are then become the operational things. But with respect to the policy, this is one that we can live with. Thank you.
Thank you. Abdul Karim, I'm giving you just 10 seconds in summary of what is on the chat.
In summary of what is on the chat, I have a number of issues, but I think one of the main issues which I think was raised is the issue of it being an administrative function, or is it going to be a PDP issues. The other issues that I see that was raised is on the issue of how much it's going to cost, but I think I don't understand that.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay, thank you. Jody, please, if you can, please use a little, maybe 1 minute to respond. Thank you.
Very quickly, I didn't take the names of all the speakers, but for the first one, he said or she said basically partially done by the staff. That's the key. Okay, so that's my response to that very easily. The staff is able to do manually only partially this work. We need automation to make sure that everything is done as cheaper as possible, because doing partially manually some of the things is not the same as investing once for doing it automatically forever. Then there was another point about the scarcity of ASN and IPv6. Yes, there is no scarcity of ASN and IPv6. We have still more than 7/8 of the total IPv6 space for using it. So that's not a problem. And even if that was a problem, RFC 7020 that is mentioned in the proposal solves it. From the same speaker, I could not hear because the audio was terrible the rest of the question. So unfortunately, I cannot answer it. There was a recent comment from the chat about if this is a PDP issue. Yes, it is a PDP issue because the PDP is about using efficiently resources. And if we need tools to make sure that we are using efficiently resources and not being acting against the policies, clearly it's a PDP issue.
Okay.
The last one, cost is shared. I explained it, and somebody else explained it in the chat for me. The cost of the implementation, it may be a cost, but you share it across the time, so it's not really a big issue. And what we prefer, cost in developing something that helps to keep resources, or the cost of going to the course to recover resources that is actually happening now. I think is clear. And I think the other comments were in support, so thanks for all them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Jody. Apologies to everyone. We have overspent some time. Yeah, so I think we've heard from each and everyone. Allow us to think through and come back to later on the decision of the co-chairs. But at this point in time, I would love to hand over this to the staff to take us through the next session. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Abdul Karim. So I would like to call upon Mrs. Gillian Lyra, the chairperson of the election committee, to take us through the slot related to the PDP co-chair election results. Over to you, Gillian.
Is Gillen speaking? I can't.
Glenn, if you could please unmute yourself. We can't hear what you're saying. Thank you. We can't hear you.
This is Mark. Should I simply take over?
Yes, Mark, please activate your video so that we can be able to move on.
Okay, I'm asking to share a screen.
Is it not the one being seen right now?
No, it is not. It's a different one.
Glenn, can you hear us? And could you please try speaking so that we can hear you? Okay. Mark, please share your screen. We proceed as Glenn tries to share her.
Okay.
Yes,
okay, Glenn is here. We can hear her now.
all right, sorry for the inconvenience. So you can hear me now?
Yes.
Great. All right then. So thank you everybody. I'm sorry for the just hiccups. So good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chair of the Board, PDP co-chairs, CEO, Chair of NOMCOM, members, community members. So good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Guilhem. I'm the chairperson of the election committee for this year. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of the election process that we have carried out for the election of the PDP and NONC. The slide, please.
Just a minute, please. Yeah, here we go.
Next one.
Sorry, I
all right, so okay.
Let me remove.
So as you may be aware, the election committee is set up by the CEO as per the provision of the bylaws, and our role and responsibilities is to look after the logistic for the election in collaboration with the NOMCOM. So for the elections this year, unfortunately, with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have had to review the election process 2020, so that I'm sure that you have taken cognizance of the election process as it was published in August 2020, so as to provide and facilitate a virtual election for all the open seats this year. And in terms of the step that we followed for the PDP co-chair and NONC election, so we did a registration period for the purpose of compiling a voters register, and then subsequently the election started for the PDP and the NO, and this election started on 14 September 2020, and we closed it today at 12:02 UTC, as it was announced earlier by Magvi at the start of the meeting. So on this note, we you all. We thank everyone who has participated in the election. And as the election committee, we wish to assure everybody that we have done our best to ensure that the election is free and fair for everybody. And I will now, on this note, invite the NAMCON chair, Mr. Mark Elkins, to announce the result. So I'll just hand over to Mr. Elkins. Yeah.
Okay, great. System says I'm on. So a few minutes ago, what seemed like a few minutes ago, we had a private Zoom meeting, and the following people were present. The first three names, myself, Galen, and Ashok, we are the people that hold the keys for the main elections. We have some staff members, Cedric, David, and Krishna. And then we had some observers, that is Paul Wilson, Lucky Masalela, and Jean Maudel. I think that's everyone. And obviously we had the CEO keeping an eye on all of us. So what I've done is I've taken some screenshots of this particular meeting that we had, and we were led through the whole election process, how it works. Again, you can see that these people are all here. I'm being asked to please share the screen again. Can people see what I am doing? Because I'm certainly seeing it online. Can I have some feedback, please?
The slide. Can you please try sharing again?
Okay, it's strange because it's on my screen. I'm just going to switch it off. Share my screen. Going back to that. Allow. Are people able to see that now? I certainly see it. Okay, so like I said, let me quickly go back to the first. This is a list of the people that were there in this Zoom meeting. Like I said, I took some screenshots of the Zoom screen while we were going through things. And this is the NRO election results. So Saul Stein won with 59 votes, and Janvier came in with 34 votes. So I would like to congratulate Saul Stein on being the next NRO ASO person to stand on behalf of the Afrinic region. We then went straight through to the next election, which was for the Policy Development Working Group Chair, and this was won relatively easily by, I won't insult him by trying to pronounce his name, Abdullah Karim. So congratulations to you. And like I said, we had a bunch of other screenshots, and very, very lastly, this is where I would like to say that the election went, the revealing part of the election went through fine, and the job has been completed. First time done like this online, so I'm very happy. So I'd like very much to hand back to Geli. Or Susan, whoever.
Thank you very much, Mark. At this point, At this point, I would like to thank us all for attending today's meeting. And we have done so well with time, and we hope that tomorrow, when we come back for the day 2 of the policy discussion sessions, we will keep time as this. Thank you very much for attending. Sorry, thank you very much for attending day 2. Sorry, thank you very much for attending day 3 of AIS online. Without further ado, I feel free to leave the room at your own pleasure. Thank you. Why do you want to share your screen? Too late.